Joining me now in studio is Tom Schuh, founder of Bridget's Battle Foundation. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jordan. Great to be here.
Welcome. So, Tom, what is Bridget's Battle Foundation?
Well, I'll give you the short version. My wife passed away from breast cancer in 2014. She got diagnosed in 2008. She was treated at Roswell for those years. While she was still alive, we actually started doing fundraising for Roswell with a series of events, including local bands from Western New York. So we started to donate some money at that time. After she passed away, we kind of formalized the foundation, formalized the events that we had every year. So since 2014, we've been raising money under the Bridget's Battle banner. And in total, since we started in 2010, we've raised about $65,000 for the Angel Fund at Roswell. And I can tell you a little bit more about that as we go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge amount of money raised. And I just want to say I'm sorry to hear about your wife.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that you took the trauma of losing somebody and turned it into something to help others. Because it's so important that when you go through something that you try to channel it some way that's healthy, and I think you've done that, Tom.
Well, thank you. I really think that came from Bridget herself, because in the middle of her disease and her treatment, this is something she wanted to do to give back. I mean, she was treated tremendously at Roswell. You know, the doctors and the nurses and the support staff there were great to her. I mean, she really grew to love those people over the time that she was treated there. And her attitude about her disease was she wasn't going to let it define her. If you talked to her about what was going on with her, inevitably it turned around and you ended up talking to her about your issues and your concerns and your problems. So she was always like that. So we kind of latched on to that while she was alive, and we wanted to continue to carry that on in her memory after she passed.
Yeah, and you talk about Bridget. Can you tell us more about her? You said you like to support the local community.
Sure. She was a big music fan, which is why when we started to do this, every event we've done since we started has always had live bands involved with it. So we've always tied that aspect into it. You know, we focus on her family and her friends. We've tried to grow the events that we do in the organization beyond that, but really that's at the core of it, was to do something for the people that were close to her every year, to remember her and to kind of pass it forward. And you know, since we've had the foundation, we've obviously grown it to the point where now we've reached out to a lot of people who never knew her personally, but you know, they're plugged into Roswell Park, they're plugged into cancer causes, they're plugged into going to see bands and having a good time. And for any of those reasons, they might come and support us and help us with our mission.
Yeah, and so when Bridget got sick, how was the process with, you know, we have Roswell here in Western New York. We're lucky to have that.
Absolutely.
But what was the process for you and your family, you know, going through that? I know it was challenging.
Sure, it was. She, relatively speaking, tolerated her treatment very well. She was very young when she was diagnosed. She was in her early 40s, I want to say. So at that stage when you're diagnosed, and it was pretty serious, it went to stage 4 pretty quickly and metastasized pretty quickly as well. So when you're that young and you're going through that, they're going to hit you very hard. They're not so concerned about your quality of life for those years. They want you to have quantity of life so you can be with your family and with your friends. So her treatment was rugged, but she tolerated it very well. She stayed pretty healthy. She had a really great attitude about it. As I said, the support staff at Roswell Park was incredible to her. We obviously didn't have the outcome that we wanted, but her case was very unique and very specific and very challenging, as a lot of cancer is. They threw everything they could at it. She was in a few clinical trials. It wasn't until the very end that it really became tough for her, and at that point, you know, it became what it was, and you know,
that's just how it was.
She's moved on to another phase now, so.
Yeah, and more towards the end, what role did music have to play for her? I'm sure it was what helped her get through.
Yeah, I mean, for her and for me too.
Absolutely.
Kind of by translation, you know, music became our way to hang out with our friends and have a good time, and not so much take our minds off what we were going through, but you know, it's funny. I always thought if I was ever stricken or somebody close to me was that would just take over my life or our lives.
Right.
That every day would be about that, nothing else. And I found it really isn't. You live a normal life every day, most days, go get treatment. If you feel okay, you just move on. And in most cases, she did feel okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, live music and going out with our friends and doing things like that wasn't so much an escape. It was just more of a reinforcement of regular life and trying to have a good time and go forward, even though we were going through this.
I think you were kind of playing the symphony of life, if you will, right? And
Absolutely.
you were kind of playing that through the music when you went out.
Yeah, for sure.
So the band jam benefit, what is that? And can you tell me about
Sure.
that? It happens every year?
Yep, we started, as I mentioned, we started at a restaurant called The Dockside in North Tonawanda in 2010, and we worked with the couple that owned that facility, Dan and Gloria Wingrove. And they had bands there. Our band was one of the bands that played there at the time. So we collected a bunch of our friends that were in bands, and we had a big event there in 2010, did it again for a couple years after that. And we started to raise money, and Dan and Gloria were very generous and matched dollar for dollar what we raised on those days. After Bridget passed, then we did it on a larger scale at a couple of other facilities, and we've landed now at Riverworks on the river near downtown to be our host for the events going forward. But we were friends with a lot of musicians from going to see him at the Dockside and other places. So when we put the call out for people to participate with us, we were overwhelmed by the response. And that's continued to this day. 12 years later, we still have a lot of the same musicians and the same bands, if they're still together, helping us this year. Some of them go all the way back to 2010 and did the first one with us. So
and you're kind of making a family and building a community around music, and it's wonderful. What other things do you have going on at the event?
We have our virtual prize raffle this year. The last 2 years, because of COVID, we really scaled back that aspect of it. We did some door prizes and we did some silent auctions. But in past years, we've had as many as a couple hundred different prizes that we've raffled off, whether it's gift cards to restaurants, theme baskets, sports memorabilia, music memorabilia, things like that. We're bringing that back this year. We're going to do it virtually with an app on people's phones too, so it'll be really easy and fun to participate in that. We're looking forward to doing that again. We're going to have some vendors there. We'll obviously have the music going on. Riverworks has food and beverages for everybody. We'll have some, games for family. It's a family event. You can bring your kids if you want. We'll have things for them to do as well. So it really is a full day of fun. It's not just the music. There's a lot of other things going on as well.
And it's only $10 to get in, right? So
$10
that's
donation.
simple.
Just at the door. We don't really do any pre-sale, so it's just simple. Just give us $10 at the door and you're good to go.
Well, it sounds good for a day of fun, I'd say. Now, you mentioned some other events, but what other events do you have throughout the year?
We've partnered with some other venues around the area. I want to give a shout out to the Pearl Street properties. Riverworks is part of that. Also, Pearl Street Grill and Brewery downtown, and the Brawler's Deli in the basement on Pearl and Seneca Street. We've done quite a few events with all their properties over the last few years, always having a live band and doing some kind of prize raffle or even 50-50 split to raise money through the year for what we do.
Again, how can people help with Bridget's Battle Foundation?
We, our primary reach out is through Facebook. So if you go to Bridget's Battle on Facebook, just do a search on those two words, or it's facebook.com/Bridget's Battle, all one word. You'll find us there, information about the band jam, which is the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend, November 27th. And you can find out about the information there. You can click on going or interested and add your name to the list of people that we expect to be there, which is great. We don't always have an online donation button set up, but you can look for that there too. Sometimes we do. We like to focus our fundraising around the events we do as opposed to just having it be there all the time. Really, the nature of what we do is tied to having the music involved. So, we'll take your money any time of year, but my vision for this is that we're just not a year-round fundraising organization with that out there. We want to focus on the events we do, and when we have an event, we usually have an online donation portion of it for people that want to help out but can't necessarily come. So as the event gets closer, you would see that on Facebook as well.
Cancer affects so many people, and to take something so terrible and then turn it into something to help people is just so heroic.
I want to just say real quickly, our specific mission within the Roswell Park Alliance is we support the Angel Fund, which was started by a philanthropist named Phil Hubble, who made a big donation to Roswell in the beginning of this, and since then they've latched on to other people that help to contribute to that as well. And that is actually the financial aid arm of the Alliance, which is if families, patients are having trouble paying non-medical expenses when they're in treatment, they can call on the Angel Fund for help with that. So we wanted to kind of narrow our focus into something that specifically helped people within Roswell and help people in need, and that's where we've focused ourselves in the last few years.
Certainly helping Western New York.
Awesome. Yep.